So now that we're all kind of chilling and we're just waiting for Vision, and there's Vision now. Good to see you, Vision. So we have a little bit to kill until Walter's coming. We just got him on his way, so he is currently in his car driving this way. So, hi everybody. Good to see you all. It's good to see a couple of you guys back from before. So we will start by. So first off, actually, I like to redo our introductions since it's been last time we did an introduction on people who were here on week 1. It's been almost a month. Actually, it has been a month. This is week number 4. So we're gonna redo our introductions. We'll start with Kelsey, and we'll work our way over the Kelsey, Vision, Cypress, Jelly, Spectral, all the way through. And you are going to say your name, your let's see. How about we'll do your name, how long you've been playing VRChat, and your favorite thing about yourself. Okay? So that'll be our new introductions, and we'll do that for everybody in the room. Kelsey, go ahead and start.
My name's Kelsey, or Soy, and I'm 22 years old. And I started playing VRChat February of 2018. And my favorite thing about myself is that I own an Australian Shepherd.
Wait, Oscar, oh my god.
Vision?
Hi, I'm Vision. I am 23 years of age. I have been playing VRChat since December of 2017. And my favorite thing about myself is that I like to destroy people in video games.
Ah, yes.
Nice.
Cypress?
I can't think of
Pro
anything.
gamer.
Hello, I am Cypress, or Cy. I have no idea how long I've been playing VRChat, just as long as Kuro's been streaming, really, so you can do that math. And my favorite thing about myself is that I play instruments, and I, like, do music stuff.
Brian,
Nice.
do you want to go ahead and...
What? Oh, I kind of joined late, but I guess I'm going off what everyone else is saying. I'm 22 years old. My favorite thing about me is probably my commitment to work.
And how long have you been playing VRChat?
It started in December 31st, 2017.
Jelly?
Yeah,
There you go. Ruin my
I usually
controllers
like
for you.
Jelly or Jello. Either one's fine. I'm 22, and I joined VRChat February 2018 as well. And I guess the favorite thing about me is, I guess people say I have like a bubbly personality, so I like that part.
Spectral?
I'm Spectral. I'm 15. I've been playing VRChat for 3 months now, I think, and my favorite thing about myself is the friend groups that I'm in.
The one and only gotta catch 'em all. Ash Ketchum?
How are you clapping?
Hi, my name is Ash Ketchum.
Let's do
I've
it.
been playing VRChat for about a year now, and I just want to be the very best and catch 'em all.
Hey.
I like that.
A year, I wouldn't have guessed that. 0?
Huh?
You sleeping in class, 0?
Oh. Listen. I'm the janitor. Okay. My name is Zero. I'm 29 years old. I've been playing VRChat for... I have absolutely no idea. I'd have to look at Steam. And my favorite thing about myself is that I'm stubborn as hell.
Woo!
Pog?
I'm Pog or Andrew, I don't care which one you'll call me. I've been playing for like a couple months, and my favorite thing about myself is my taste in music, because it's PogChamp.
Cowboy?
Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Cowboy. I'm 18, and I don't know how to read.
Oh yeah.
And everybody, if you can give a round of applause for Walter H. Welcome for coming to the No Friends Friends Club. So Walter, right now we're just going around redoing our
Come on,
introductions.
guys, compatible. One
Someone's gonna
moment
break.
here.
No problem. You take your time. I'll go now. So, my name's Kuro. I've been
Wow.
playing VRChat since December 2017. My favorite thing about myself is my ability to speak in public.
Hey.
So, Pinky Bull, are you here to attend the class?
Breaking every second.
Take that 2000 no.
That's a good one. I never even thought about that one.
That is a good one.
Alright, so anyway, I'll run down the agenda for today. We are going to probably not going to have an activity today. I know we normally do an activity and normally do partners up, things like that. But today, instead, it's going to be more so of a lecture. This being the 4th week of class is pretty exciting. We've seen the class grow, and we have this awesome club room made by Zero. So again, everyone give a round of applause for Zero for making this classroom and the environment that we're able to
Oh, you really are the
spend
janitor.
time in. Yeah, he's actually the janitor. So,
Like I said.
it's super exciting that we have an environment like this to hang out in. So Walter, if you are all good now, we'd like for you to say your name, how long you've been playing VRChat,
Yes.
and your favorite thing about yourself.
Just setting myself to orange status. One
All
moment.
good, all good, all good.
Yes. Yep. 'Cause I'll just have like unlimited people joining off me.
Yeah, no worries, no
And
worries.
it'll be disruptive. Yes, Queen. So, what did you want? My age?
Your name, how long you've been
a
playing
little bit about
VRChat for,
myself, yes.
and what's your favorite thing about yourself.
Yes. Okay. I am WalterH. I've been playing VRChat for about 3 3/4 years. That's about 8,300-ish hours of time.
Woo!
I'm a researcher in social VR, 29 years old. My favorite thing about myself is my hyper fluidity of speech. I'm a partnered Twitch streamer, #1 for late night, and I do inspirational and educational speaking for 12 hours a day. So I make money off of
Yay!
hyper fluidity of speech.
And we thank you very much for coming out to hang out with us today. So, we're going to start class just off as normal, and then we're going to have a segment where Walter's going to do a lot of speaking. You guys are free to ask him any question whatsoever after he does a little bit of introduction of himself and explains a couple things. I'm going to ask him a few questions of my own, so while we're going through our beginning of class warm-ups here, make sure you guys think of a question you might want to ask Walter, because Walter is an excellent in the field that we are currently working in. So, the question of the day today is going to be, what's the first thing you notice when you meet somebody? We'll leave this one for open discussion since we have a lot of people. I don't want to go around and ask every single person, but if you guys want to go ahead and ask a question, I'll go with my first one. So, one of the first questions I think of when I meet somebody, and being that I don't really go out a lot or outside a lot, I'm spending most of my time playing VRChat, and the people I meet in VRChat, I usually ask people how long they've been playing. Because I feel like if I ask somebody how long they've been playing, and being a veteran of VRChat myself, I'm able to gauge what kind of activities a person likes to do in VR. If it's a new person on VRChat, if they say they've only been playing for like a month or so, to me that's really exciting, because one of the coolest things about VRChat is showing people around, like showing people like the cool worlds and like what interesting places you can visit, and like all different kind of aspects of VRChat. So anybody else, what kind of question would you ask somebody you're meeting for the first time? Ash?
I accidentally started. I didn't.
You're good. Anybody? Comment? Cypress?
I think if I was trying to get to know somebody, like one of the first things that I would think of is like talking about their music taste and asking them like what kind of music they like, because I know that that would be an easy topic to connect with.
Anybody? Brian?
Yeah, you start off with the most basic one out there. How's your day? You know, how's it been going?
Right.
And you can reach a lot of topics from that.
Yeah, especially people that you might, if you ever read like a vibe off somebody and you feel like, oh man, this person might understand me in a way, and maybe we could talk about something. Asking how the day was, like, usually you'll get the answer. It's like, good. How was yours? That's fine too. Getting the answer is okay. At least it's a stepping stone. But if they are elaborating, saying, "Oh, it was good. I did this. You can find some topics to maybe talk about or a mutual ground that you can have discussion with. Kelsey?
You can branch from it.
Exactly.
I would ask them what they like to do in their free time because maybe you'll find something in common. You can like talk about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Good. Anybody else? Walter?
Talk to them about VR-related topics. You're literally standing here in VR,
Mhm.
right? So things that are
what headset
that are
you got?
right, things
right.
that are
What
applicable
headset?
to VR, but I'd say the most easy initiator when it comes to learning social skills is to it's so simple because it's just look at a person's avatar. Hey, I love the crown. Love the jacket too. Nice. And then you just zoom off. And you don't even have to say anything. They don't even have to
Wait, I
say
have a
anything
crown?
back. Just you do.
You have a crown on your head, Ash.
Yes, you do. Yes, and it looks good.
Man,
As I
something
stated.
we noticed.
Alright, great. So, like Walter said, talking about VR topics, you can even just go up, like he said, say a quick thing, small compliment, small thing you like about them, because maybe that'll also train yourself better at engagements. When you have a brief engagement like that, that subconsciously will help you have better engagements in the future. It's about building that confidence of that first statement, of getting the comments to ask them that question. Believe it or not, a lot of people like talking about themselves. People like expressing how they feel, like their opinions on things. So when you're asking that first question, feel free to ask a question that's a little more engaging as well. So for instance, like VR topics, there's so many different parts of conversation you can branch off of just talking about VR. Different games, different kinds of equipment, how long they've been playing, how they feel about it, what it's done for them. There's so many things you can branch off of that. A question like, how is your day? There's nothing wrong with asking that question, but it's also a very a limited question. Because if you get that, my day is good, how's your day going, right? You're kind of stuck in this like, oh, it's good too. And then you're like, well, have a good day, you know? You're kind of stuck at that wall. Everyone's been down that road where you say, how's your day? It's good. How's yours? Everyone's been in that little position. If you're ever given a good how's yours in response, it's really good to, if you don't want to get to that point where you're just awkwardly sitting there, it's really good to elaborate more on your end. Because maybe that person that you asked the question is also really shy and really afraid to say how their day was. So if you in tandem bring up that confidence to say, oh, my day was okay, I did this. If you are the one doing that part, you'll never go into that wall of just, how's your day going? Good, how's yours? Because people are both guilty on both sides of causing that situation. That kind of interaction is really, really difficult to get over because then you're just kind of stuck there feeling like, okay, this is what do we talk about now, you know? But if you are elaborating and explaining how your day went with maybe like a couple of questions in response, like, do you know this? Well, I did that today. That could elaborate the conversation a little bit more. Solner, welcome. Why don't you go ahead and take a seat? And Solner, would you like to introduce yourself? Say your name, how long you've been playing VRChat for, and your favorite thing about yourself.
Sorry, I have like screaming in the background. It's really bad.
You're good.
Hello there, my name is WalterH. I've been playing VRChat for about 2 years now, I think. I started like late 2018, so. But I think my favorite thing about myself is probably how dedicated I can be to something. Like when I really want something, I think I can get it. But yeah.
Nice.
Oren, welcome to class. Oren, we are starting. We just finished introductions a little bit ago. We're just talking for a second. Oren, would you like to introduce yourself? We'd like your name, how long you've been playing VRChat for, and your favorite thing about yourself. One second. Gotcha. There we go.
There we go. Okay. Hello. My
Hi.
name is Oren.
Hello.
I've been playing VRChat since 2018. Clocked in over 4,000 hours. And I'd say my favorite thing about myself is my compassion for others.
Yay.
All right, so again, there's lots of people who are new to the class that I can see. Last week, the homework So everyone did their homework last week. Isn't that awesome? That's literally the first week that we had everyone do their homework. So that's pretty awesome. In case you guys don't know what the homework was, and if you want to catch up, it was to send me a message of 3 questions you'd want somebody to ask yourself when they're meeting you. Like 3 of the first questions. There were lots of great examples. Would anyone like to share 1 or 2 of the questions that they provided as an example? And if you're new here, would you like to say a question that you would want someone to ask you? Just raise your hand. Okay, I'll go first just to start it off. The question that I would want someone to ask me would be, what are your passions? I believe when I'm on the topic of things that I'm comfortable with, I'm able to talk forever and ever and ever about things that I care about. So I'd like someone to ask me, like, well, so what got you into mental health awareness? What's your opinion on VRChat? Like, topics that I can go on for a long, long, long time. It's like those perfect questions that let people know kind of things about yourself. So, anybody else have any examples? Vision?
I can't pull up the Discord, so I'm pretty sure I put this one, but I think that I said, what name do you like to go by?
Right. That's a good one. So then they can now have something to address you by. Cypress?
I just pulled up the Discord to look at what I put, so I'll give you all 3 of mine.
Perfect.
My first one was, what are your pronouns? My second one was, what kind of music do you like? And my third one was, what kind of video games do you like?
Good. See, those are questions that you can just elaborate on too. Like the pronouns question, people could ask you, what made you decide on making the decision that you did. Music, they can ask you your genre, all different kinds. You can even get to the point where you're sharing music with each other. So those questions are all these questions that you're having people ask you. Those are the things that you are proud of about yourself. See, believe it or not, when you gave me these 3 things, if you guys don't have a lot of things that you like about yourself, those 3 questions that you gave me are things that you find interesting about yourself. Because those are questions that you want other people to find out, So that's a really interesting exercise that you guys did. And maybe a little bit of a confidence booster. Like, oh, wow, I did put 3 questions. Oh, maybe there's 3 things that I actually do like about myself. So just a little bit of a thing that you guys can reflect on, those of you who did the homework. So at this point, Walter, I'm going to invite you to come on down here and take the podium or the desk. As you can see, my desk is a little messy with my Crayola crayons and such. So everybody give a round of applause for Walter. Welcome down here.
Yes. Not exactly.
Clapping in the controllers is the only way to clap in VRChat, guys. Come on.
See if I get my
I was so worried.
Doing my best here,
tracking
right?
to function.
You're all good.
Okay. There we go.
So Walter, go ahead and the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, I'm Walter. I'm a researcher in social VR. Actually, perhaps I should start a little bit back from that. About 4 years. Maybe I should start back even further than that. I'm a behavioral biologist, so that's somebody who has studied ethology, that is the science of developmental psychology, sexual psychology, and evolutionary psychology as they relate to physiology and anatomy. So that's a framework for understanding how animals interact with each other, and that includes humans, of course, within that framework. And I studied that, though I didn't put it to much use after I got my degree. I ended up when I was, I don't know the year, but when I was 22, I had to have tumors removed from my nerve sheath, which left me with a spreading form of chronic pain. It was a cancer that grew out of the lining of the nerves. So nerves are how you feel, and it means that I was left with something that was effectively a permanent, horrible injury. This ended up destroying my psychology in a huge way, where I formed what was effectively a prism of chronic pain within my mind. And what I mean by a prism of chronic pain is that when you shine light through a prism, it breaks down into all of its component pieces. So it breaks down to all the different colors, right? And it creates a band. And what you see when you have what in my mind I refer to as a prism of chronic pain is that when you have a thought that's like a positive thought of, oh, there's this great movie coming out in a year, I can't wait to see it. it hits that prism and it restructures the whole framework of the thought into something entirely new, where you look at that and you start to see it in a different light of, but how much pain will I be in a year when that comes out? Will I still be able to enjoy that movie when I'm in that much pain? How much pain will I be in, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? What's the point of looking forward to anything? It destroys your idea of hope. I came into VRChat and I had isolated myself for about 4 years before I came into here, about 4 years ago. And I had cut myself off from people until I entered this environment. I didn't realize that when I entered here that it would be different from a place like RuneScape or World of Warcraft, where, sure, if you want to count that I had made friends in World of Warcraft and RuneScape, yeah, I hadn't isolated myself, but you don't consider a person in RuneScape who you type to occasionally to be a genuine friend, not like somebody who's in a real life setting is.
Mhm.
So when I came into the setting, I ended up meeting someone. This was before the Knuckles revolution. So that was when the population from the game went from about an 80 average, up to about, let me just turn on one moment here. Went up to about 20,000 average. Yes.
Hell yeah, let's go.
And I watched the old culture of VRChat get washed away. The old culture of VRChat was actually very toxic.
True. Very true. Very true.
Extremely, believe it or not, for those who are well averse to VRChat now, it was extremely transphobic because it was run mostly by 4chan, because it was such an obscure game you could almost only find it through 4chan. It was almost everyone who's exposed to it came through it through 4chan. I found it through 4chan while I was searching for a different thread. I saw a picture of two cute wolf girls hugging. Well, people back then would come here through 4chan, that they spot a person who was trans, they would post on the board, and they would have other people come and mass harass. And so it was a way different environment. But I came into here, I started interacting with people, and I quickly realized that this was a completely untapped environment for my field. I'm an ethologist, so that's somebody who comes into a setting, any sort of environment, and you start studying animals. I would be someone who fills out a Wikipedia page on an animal, effectively. But one thing that's really important is that once you've come in and started studying something, it leaves very little else for other people to study. Now I realized I was first one on the ground, and I thought, oh, there's going to be a gold rush for this. So I decided that I was going to claim as much possible territory that I could. I've conducted over the past 3.5 years a 1,400 data point study, one that Rebu and Kelsey are both part of as data points. During this, I was studying dissociation and association. So those will be feelings of being in VR outside of VR. That's dissociation. So it'll be things like, have you ever felt like something was up with your hands when you left VR, or maybe the room was lagging, or you looked at a two-dimensional screen, suddenly it went 3D on you, or you woke up from a dream and suddenly the room around you seemed like something was wrong with your hands, something was wrong with your vision. These sorts of things are extremely common. In fact, in a 1,400 data point study, only 45 people said they did not have some sort of dissociative property while interacting within VR. Association being the way you associate to VR, the time that it takes for you to associate to this environment, and the differentiations between that. Because actually, when you come into VR, this is something that some of you might have noticed. There's a reset of what you might know colloquially, meaning like on a word of mouth basis, as the "are we there yet" effect. That's when you're a child and you're like 5 years old and there's an hour-long car ride. 30 minutes in, you're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Because your registry of time is contingent upon how much time you've experienced. So the more time you experience, the less the passage of time is noticeable to you. But when you come into VR, there's a bit of a back tracing on that based on the way you view information via association and via the memories that are used. Because the next part that I was studying is psychosomatic response and somatosensory data. That's phantom touch in VR. So people talking about phantom touch, this is actually something that's provable via an EEG. You can take a person, put them underneath a scan, and see the mathematics of what's occurring within their brain, and see that, oh, this person is experiencing touch. People experience much more than that. They also experience hot, cold, weight, resistance, even scent and taste and balance can play into it as well, because any part of what's called the cortex, which is the part of the brain that deals with sensation, can activate during a psychosomatic experience. But it's a limbic and a limbic and a cortexual response working together. So limbic system is your emotions. It's actually an empathy-based response, and one that is based on your empathy for yourself, but then your empathy for others as well. So when you, I'll give you an example of allocentric psychosomatic response. So that's feeling something in response to somebody else experience something. So let's say you see someone get kicked in the balls, or or they get like a paper cut, or you see them get like stabbed, and you're like, oh, and you feel that pain. That is an allocentric psychosomatic response. So you're seeing somebody else's pain and you are registering it. Now, this is an egocentric psychosomatic response. If I touch myself on the wrist, or a better example actually would be to, of course I knocked it off the desk just then when it would be useful, would be to touch myself on the hand with something like this. So if I feel something, that would be an egocentric response. So it's myself responding to the avatar and saying, this is me. But if you come up and hug me, I will feel more based upon how close we are. Because allocentrically, I'll respond to you. So if we're super close, yes. Like, this is my girlfriend, so I would feel the most response from her when it comes to warmth. Now go back to the stands, you. And so it's something that makes it very rewarding to have relationships in here, both romantic and just normal friendships, because you'll end up feeling more, and you'll feel more warmth, you'll feel more closeness towards another person. But like I said before, your experiences of time in here are much further back to where you're a child than to where they are now. So you actually get to effectively experience more time with a person too, because later time is less value. Time for you actually has less value and feels shorter than it does when you're a child. So a child gets more out of time from the way your brain references experience. So you feel like you've known people longer. Maybe you've met a person in here and you've known them for a week, but it feels like you've known them for months and months. Or you watch somebody else who's interacting with somebody for only their first day, but it seems like they have the chemistry of somebody who's been hanging out for many days together. This sort of thing is relatively common in here, though, again, that's more of a, that's more hearsay, right, than something that's provable via data or mathematics. Yas, Queen. But also been studying both long-term and short-term memory function in VR, and how the cortices, so the sensations used in those memories, differentiate from what would be considered a standard memory. And how morality, so that's what's known in ethology as a fixed action pattern. This right here that I'm doing, where I'm talking using my hands, that's a fixed action pattern. A blind person will talk with their hands, and a blind baby will smile, because smiling is also an example of a fixed action pattern. Morality, how you treat another human when you see them, that is much hardwired as your smiling is. When you see a human, it activates a certain shape within your brain, just like that smile is also represented within a shape of your brain. So there's a certain part of the brain activating. Now, this kind of all ricochets back to what this group is more about. So later, after studying these topics of morality, ethics, and all this, I was reaching out to research teams because I had already seen the efficacy of how this could be utilized for online therapy. And eventually, I caught the eye of a research team led by a neuroscientist. It's myself, a neuroscientist, and two therapists who specialize in helping people with gender identity-related issues, rather. And I ended up getting integrated into their team. We've been going around to medtech conferences, and I'm trying to work on like a colloquial level rather than working through, like, let's say, the legal system, trying to get it adopted on an insurance level. We're trying to get therapists to recognize that this can help people who have things like social anxiety, low social skills, autism. Gender dysphoria is as probably the best example of how this can be used. For instance, I put on this body, right? Body of a woman, but then I can immediately get, by the way, I'm a cis male, just as a reference point, so this is not myself talking through experience, but can put on this body of a woman, look at myself in the mirror, and feel that reduction in dysphoria, but this is like $100,000 of cosmetic surgery, but if I don't like it, I can switch to another thing, and then another, and another. You can use this as a transitionary phase within transition while you work on things like your voice, things like HRT, right? So working on your body and working on your voice as much as you can, but perhaps you can't even do any of that because you're in such a restrictive environment. This will give you a stabilizing factor of a community that accepts you for who you are, but then it'll give you even more than that, because it'll give you this reprieve psychologically that nothing else would be able to give you. If you might be in a culture where you will actually have physical violence done against you or legal consequences for revealing that you're trans in any sort of way, or for that being found out, or perhaps not even culture, perhaps it's just your family, something, they'll throw you out, and you can't possibly have that happen to you. It'll ruin your life, and it'll put you way back. There's always risks involved in transition, and this helps mitigate those risks in a huge way. And not only that, but the community is hyper accepting towards people who are trans, because the LGBT population here is quite dominant. But something that I aim to eventually prove is, many of you might have heard the VRChat meme that playing VRChat turns you gay if you're a guy. And
yes, heard that.
Now that yes, right. Now it's more accurate to say that it unlocks forms of bisexuality, I think is more accurate. But I think it can be proved on a sort of mathematical level, where you can see this on an EEG. So EEG being how you register the mathematics of brain electrical currents and everything. So the signals that your brain is sending, you can see it all, and you can see how much is occurring, and you get a really good read on it. I think that over time, there's a shifting effect from interacting with male avatars. Like a male is a female avatar, rather. So for straight guys, you see, like, they're like, oh, their brain just flickers to, oh, I like that. Oh, that's hot. And it's a very baseline sort of interaction. Male, like the way males interact with stimuli is very straightforward in this regard. So I'm assuming you're going to see a relatively straightforward data set on this. Yas, queen. So this platform converts people to being LGBT as well. Not just has a dominant LGBT community, but it becomes more dominant percentage-wise the longer people stay here. It's not like it's a stable graph, like 100 straight people join, 100 straight people leave. It's like 100 straight people join, 4 years later, 30% of them have realized there's some form of bisexual. Like it's more of a graph. But what I've seen for myself coming into here is that this personally for me has been something that pulled me out of depression. This gave me purpose. This gave me meaning. This allowed me to pull my life together in this huge way where I've been able to help people, I've been able to try to change things and make a difference. I've been able to see how this could be utilized for the future, for helping people in therapy, but much more than that, I've also been talking to people in one-on-one settings, which is, I think, something that any person can do, though there are risks involved with talking to people about their problems, but it helps you so much on an empathetic level understand other people and have these very, very complex growth spurts that you get to go through, where somebody comes to you with something you've never faced before, where like they come to you with the loss of a loved one. You've never experienced the loss of a loved one, but you find that in that moment you're able to experience a deep empathy for them. You cry with that person, and then you're able to find the right words to help them. And I've seen myself doing this many, many times in here. And I think that what VR offers you is opportunities. So opportunities socially, opportunities romantically, opportunities to better yourself on an emotional level. Because a really important thing to understand about emotions is that thoughts generate emotions, which generates a behavioral pattern. I'll show you this in action. You are going to a medtech conference in India, and you get to the hotel that you're staying at. You go upstairs, you walk inside, and you open up the door to your hotel room, and right there on the ground is a poisonous snake. Now this is India, so you know snakes are dangerous as fuck. So you immediately have a panic attack, right? You slam the door, you run downstairs, you're like, what the fuck? Like, how'd that get in my room? You go and ask, like security, like, what the fuck do I do? And they come up with, like, someone to, like, grab the snake, you know, you're fucking freaking out, and they go and open the door, and you're, like, standing back, waiting for it to be there. You're like, what if it's gone? Like, where if there are more? There's no way I'm staying in this place. They open it up, and right there was a rope, just sitting on the ground, curled up. Now imagine you walked through the door and you thought, oh, there's a rope on the ground. Would you have had a panic attack, run downstairs, gotten security, had like been freaking out for 15 minutes, been like worrying about like, oh my god, what if there are more ropes? Where'd the rope come from? What if more get into my room? Like, no, you won't, because thoughts generate emotions, generate a behavioral pattern. It was the thought that it was a snake that generated this. If you had seen it, thought, oh, that's a rope, then it would have generated a completely delineated version of events. So you can come into here and you can shape who you are in a huge way, because what you experience through your thoughts, these emotions that you experience, they become behavioral patterns. So if you spend time in here invested with an empathy, you'll see that growing more and more in yourself in a huge way. It's something that we've all experienced with other people. We've watched them become more paranoid, more hateful, more bitter, but you probably also know someone who became more like sweet and loving and caring. It's about investment of self, and this provides you infinite complexity to the investment of self that you can engage in.
Mm-hmm.
But it also provides unique investment of self. So I'll give a great example of something that every single person here should do. If you haven't done this before, you should. Stanford did an experiment where they did subconscious racial bias tests on people to figure out like what's your baseline level of subconscious racial bias, and then they ran a study in which they put people into VR for an hour and a half as an avatar from a different race. So if you were a white guy, they would put you in the avatar of a black guy. If you're a black guy, they'd put you in an avatar of a white guy, that kind of thing. And what they did is they had them do a workout routine in front of a mirror for an hour and a half, okay? And afterwards, they tested their subconscious racial bias, and what they found is that across the board, the brain within an hour and a half had already included black people or white people, depending on which one was tested, right? Within the in-group. So no longer were they on the out-group, they were considered to be on the in-group by the brain. Now, the in-group is actually a switch. It's an on-off switch. So either you're in-grouped or you're out-grouped. And the complexities and the rationalizations of what defines that then branch out in a more human way, where you're like, this is why this person's not in the in-group. This is why the person's on the out-group. But what they found as the most important piece of data, because it's one thing to test someone for subconscious racial bias, run through an experiment, test them again, find a result. What does that mean though? If it's just gonna fucking go away. Well, what they found out is that 6 months later, every person had the same level of reduced subconscious racial bias, or even more reduced, meaning that your brain does not unflip the switch. So you can come in here and gain great benefits involving reduction of subconscious sexual and racial bias that are things that are unique to VR. And there are other things that are unique to VR. I, for instance, have chronic pain in my nerve sheath, meaning that I have a frayed nerve sheath and spreading damage. In VR, this acts as a powerful nerve suppressant. So this has been tested by Harvard, Oxford, MIT, and University of Washington, ran independent studies on the topic of nerve dissociation using VR. And they found that VR is the second best nerve dissociative outside of narcotics. So this is incredibly powerful for dealing with pain. This can help you in things like getting fit too, because it dissociates you from your nerve endings so you won't feel your stomach, certain things like that. Now that's also to say there's a level of risk to this as well, because you don't feel your stomach when you're in here. So I'm sure most of you, if you're somebody who's played for a while, you've had the experience of coming in here and you were hungry, and then you realize that you've now been in here for 5,
definitely.
8, 10 hours, and you were hungry when you fucking started, and you didn't even think about it until like you take off the headset and you're like, oh shit, what the fuck? Like, oh my god, where am I? That's the kind of thing you can experience here in VR when it comes to nerve dissociation as well. So it can be a positive. It can also have a bit of a downside if you play it a little bit risky. But I think that the future of this of VR is going to come a lot down to the way that it's hopefully used in things like teaching, like this. Like for instance, we could have a class here. Now I want you to think about this. Imagine you guys are all 8 years old, okay? And I have you in a class that I am teaching right here, okay? Now let's say we have all of you here, but now we double the class size, okay? So we double the class size and we add in a whole other class. Now it's a class from China, okay? Let's say you guys are all from the US. I know that's not the case, but let's say you're all from the US. And now we have another group that's here from China. Now I have a second teacher up here. Now both of us I can speak Mandarin and English. And ironically, if my girlfriend was still here, she could come down here and start speaking Mandarin and English. But we could do a joint class together where they're speaking to their side, but we're like working together to teach a lesson about US history or about Chinese history. But not only that, I can teleport the class right here, make the room ancient China, then move us through time, right? And have you learning in a class with people from China, breaking down racial barriers, breaking down geographical tensions at an extremely early age, including these people into your in-group, so you can avoid these sorts of conflicts, geopolitical conflicts down the line, by investing into things like virtual teaching. You can integrate multicultural groups really easily into each other and have it so there's like a class that's being taught from, you have kids from South America and from Canada in a class together, and it just becomes the norm to sort of have people have exchange students effectively in your class, but in a much more productive and sort of focused style of making it a productive method of kind of advancing, as weird as it sounds, world peace. But I mean, the idea really would advance things that way. But it's interesting to think about how this can be used for certain things like online therapy. Think about this: you could come and teleport into a session with a therapist in a location you choose. Now, I want to tell you that there's a place here known as the Halawaska Museum, It is the best map in VRChat. It is rendered with an $80,000 photometric backpack. That's a backpack somebody wore in real life. They walked around a museum and it rendered the whole museum into virtual reality in like a one-for-one gorgeous rendition. So I'd recommend anyone go to this world. But the very interesting thing about this is that when I was talking to people, because I've talked to many people about their problems, people have come to me, asked me, can we talk? And I said, yes. Let's go talk. And then I'll pick a world that seems comforting. I chose this world at random, and this young man from Europe had just come to ask me to talk. I open up portal, we hop through, and just a little bit in, they look around and they're like, oh my god, this is the Halawaska Museum. And they're like, I spent every day for 8 years here after school waiting for my mother to come pick me up. And he said, I would sit in this corner. This is my favorite place on earth to sit. I would sit in this corner and I would spend this time thinking about my problems, working on homework. We sat in that corner and talked while they were safe in their room. They could take up the headset anytime. They didn't have their physical appearance being judged or anything like that. Minimal levels of judgment. 100% all just like an extremely calming environment that we're completely alone at. And you can use one of the really cool things about cell phone technology is you can currently use cell phone technology to make a photometric image, okay? So you can use your cell phone to make a photometric image, but one thing that's really important about cell phone technology is it's one of those things that every technology eventually gets passed down to every phone. So remember how it used to be that only a very few amount of phones could access the internet, and now it's like, what the fuck? Phone in the last 10 years can't access the internet, basically. So it used to be that was a rare exotic feature, and now it's a standard feature. But if you think about it, cameras used to be a rare exotic feature on phones too, and then it's like this next thing and this next thing, and everything gets passed down and in cell phones in a way where we'll all have access to this. But with breakthroughs like Quest 2, it will allow us to advance into a phase where you can get this insured a lot easier. Because the idea of insuring a computer that you're then going to use for VR is like a comical task. Like, good luck getting that ever to
Guys
get
in chat,
past
if you
through
guys
any
have
sort
any
of insurance
questions you want to
company.
ask him,
But
feel free to put the
the
question in
idea
here, and I can go ahead and
of a
translate the question for him.
$300 or less
So
headset
any question at all.
that is insured by an insurance company is easily believable. And we actually had our time frame for our end game goals at 15-year mark. The Quest 2 makes it plausible that we could see forms of online therapy in like 6 years rather than like an additional like 5 from there. So it's possible that this technology cheapens things to a degree where you might be able to meet up with the therapist relatively soon in this kind of environment. Where you still have your level of self-expression, but it evens things out, because I'm not sitting here with my, you walk in after having driven an hour and I've got like my degrees and everything behind me and a really nice view of the city or the lake behind my office, and I've got my Tesla parked out front and I'm in a really nice suit and I'm very handsome, and you come in, you're like looking like shit and your whole life is in ruins because that's why you're at therapy, and does that help you open up more? Now sometimes it does, right? Because appeal to authority, because you see that person, you're like, oh shit, they really have their life together, I should listen to them. But I think a lot of times it also creates an appeal to deception. So if somebody has everything going that well, do you really want to tell them about how shitty your life is and seem like such a piece of shit to this person? Like, I think many people, they want to save face, and a lot of that has to do with the power dynamic that's created. Whereas if I get to just choose exactly how I look, like it doesn't matter if I have a breakout of acne or anything like that, I just pop right in, everything's already set up, and I just walk right to the therapist, and it's a completely egalitarian process, meaning it has a degree of equal opportunity on both sides. For both sides can just instantly teleport in. It's not like rigged in favor of the therapist like most things usually are. So I'm very hopeful about the future and across many ways, but I've seen how this can be used for social anxiety. I've taught people how to make friends. I've been able to integrate hundreds of people into the community and have like a very focused mind towards just the opportunities to do good that VR offers. Right before I came here, I was in a great pub, and there was a person talking about anxiety, and there was someone else who was already trying to help them with it. And I stepped forward and tried to help too, and so did another person. And we were able to actually make a pretty good... welcome. We were able to make a pretty good go at it, and give them meaningful advice, and it offers opportunities where everyone gets a chance to empathize with someone else and to grow. And that was just a great puck, you know? I could have walked in there, it could have been like many other times that there's just like massive amounts of bigotry. But in this instance, there was just extreme positivity to be found. Yes. So, those who have questions about, I guess, really anything, actually, I can literally answer any kind of question. Ethology is like wraps around any kind of question science. Are you in school? Because that's what this is. Yes.
I have a question.
Sex education? Okay. Start on you.
Yes.
So, I heard this story, and I've never been able to really... I always just, like, talk it up to just, like, okay, they just didn't realize it. So, I knew this person who dated another person on VRChat. They were both male, and then they met up after dating for 9 months on VRChat. They met up in real life. After they had scheduled their meetup, and when they met up face-to-face, on the first day that they saw each other, one of them admitted to the other person they weren't actually gay. So what do you think happened as far as the person who realized they weren't gay mindset?
So that person probably, if they were claiming they were gay, then they were probably just straight up lying. That would be the reality. But what I think is often the case, and that's why it's really important to kind of get a really firm grasp of yourself before you put somebody else at risk in that sort of way, where you're going to leave someone humiliated and heartbroken, is to understand whether you are really bisexual in the traditional sense, or if you are a subvariant of bisexual, such as gynosexual, or is it fensexual, something along those lines. It's where you are... gynosexual is effectively where you are attracted to feminine traits. So it's for a lot of guys, it would be very palatable for them to do erotic things with me because I look like a woman. But if I was to look like a guy, they wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. And that's because they're gynosexual, so they're attracted to femininity, to female traits, and to female personality traits, and also female physical traits as well. So there's a difference between being bisexual, being homosexual, and being gynosexual. And I think gynosexuality is one of the easiest things to adopt as a male in this environment. It's like, well, yeah, those are great breasts, you know, and you fucking just see it and you're like, booba, hooray! Like, I think that's very easy for a male to compartmentalize and handle. But I think it's a lot more difficult to process the leap across. And I've seen it fail multiple times, but I've also seen successes as well multiple times where people realize that they're bisexual in here and then get into like a fully proper sexual relationship with a guy in real life.
So they kind of like see the avatar, and like the features, and just like match the personality with the avatar, but they don't really acknowledge that this is a real guy. This is a male on the other hand, on the other side of that.
Yes, correct. Yes, Queen. So it's very much like something where, for the good of your partner and for yourself, it's the advice that I would standardly give would be one of like if you're meeting up with people, you're an adult, okay? So I'm gonna point this out here. So if you're meeting up with people, you're an adult. No children should be meeting up with anyone. Therefore, this advice is not for children. But you should, if you are, let's say, somebody who you thought you were straight your whole life, and then you come in here and you think, oh, I'm bisexual. Like, I just realized I am. You should test that by watching gay pornography and seeing if it properly really is something that does it for you. And I know that's like, to some people that might be like shocking, like, oh my god, they just said that. But remember, I said you're an adult, right? This is only adults that I'm talking about because you're meeting up with another person. If you are going to meet up with someone, it is 100% worth it to test this in advance, right? This is why I was very specific about this only applying to adults. As I heard
I appreciate that. I appreciate.
Yeah. Yes. This is something that you, because you're not meeting up with somebody else in here like on a romantic level if you're underage, unless that person is predating on you or something like horrifying, right? So I'm only talking about reasonable scenarios. Yes.
All right, guys. Anyone's questions?
Yes.
Everyone ask anything at all you guys got.
Oh.
This is your chance.
Yes.
So you said you could answer any question, right?
Correct.
How much did he pay you to be here?
He didn't pay me at all.
Oh my gosh.
I actually not speak for a total of 12 hours a day on these topics every single day. This is
a contract of 20 head pats an hour.
Oh no. No Kuro pats. No Kuro pats.
That'll be a lot of times in front of a mirror.
I have a question.
Yes. Oh, okay.
So, actually two. It's a two-part question. Have you personally ever experienced a moment where you're in a room and you feel excluded? And how do you build the confidence to speak to someone you've never spoken to before?
Yes. Okay. Great questions. And the answer, of course, for the first one is yes. Many times I've been in rooms where I've felt excluded, but I have learned over time how to make myself my own social storm that's just effectively always on the move, and I don't feel an isolation in the same way that I have in the past, because I now don't view social settings as like I must win scenario every time. I don't go into a social setting and just assume that like I must find a way to fit into any given setting. If it's not working out, instead of spending a lot of time feeling of, oh, I'm isolated, oh, this isn't the right place for me, I just fucking like zip to the next spot. VRChat makes it very easy to learn that skill and to make it a practical skill too, where it's not exactly practical in a real life setting. So it's one of those skills that is a VRChat only skill, but it can still help you learn to deal with it in real life. And so the other question was how do you approach people like for the first time, right?
Correct.
Effectively what you're saying.
Correct.
All right, so there is an amazing quality to VRChat known as social ambiguity. So how many friends, Kuro, do you have? Do you know? Something, if you were to give a rough estimate, if you have VRChat.com, you can look.
Oh, I'm saying probably like around 80, I believe, on my friends list. The last time I looked, I was at like 76.
Oh, damn.
It's like 80.
So some people in this room might have as much as 1,000 friends. Some people in the room might have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 friends. Okay, so if you're in a conversation, let's say there are 3 people in a conversation. Okay, so these 3 right here are talking to each other, and I decide I'm going to walk up. Now, I can actually rely on social ambiguity to guarantee that they are going to instantly mark me as part of the in-group in their brain. Because if I walk up and I pretend like I belong here, each one of them, instead of convening with each other in a council, hey, do any of you guys know this person? Like all of them are going to be like asking each other, like, any of you guys know this person? What they're going to do is they're going to assume, oh, they just walked up with confidence. Oh, if I don't, Cypress thinks, oh, I don't know them, but it must be Vision or Kelsey. Kelsey thinks, I don't know them, but it must be Vision or Cypress.
Right, okay.
They each do the ambiguity of the situation that I already belong. So if I act like I belong, they'll intrinsically think that I do. So if you walk in with confidence, now if I walk in, I'm like, am I allowed to be here, guys? I kind of want to talk, but then you're not going to find in because they're instantly going to pin you as an outsider, all of them. But you walk in, you pretend like you know people there. You don't have to even say anything. You just pretend like you generally know people. No need to do any overt lying, nothing like that. And if you're thinking it's faking it, that's a faking it. Well, if it's fake it till you make it in about 5 seconds, because there are times, I'm sure you guys have experienced, where somebody will add you in just the first 10 seconds that they've interacted with you. They think you're so hilarious or you sync so well. So sometimes making it and becoming actual true in-group where they've selected to confirm you into the in-group with a physical gesture, that sometimes takes only a tiny bit of time. So you're faking it is really a very small process. There's very little true deception going on. It's more about giving yourself a fair chance at any given setting. And another really important thing is that if Kelsey is absolutely dominating the conversation, I don't want to go and stand right next to Kelsey so that Kelsey can't see me, because Kelsey's peripheral vision is fucking tiny, because VRChat, you can't see anything that's next to you. So if you want to have social presence, it's about standing across from the person who's dominating the conversation, because if you're going to want to talk, you're going to need to pivot off them. And if you already know that you have anxieties on this topic, it's going to become much harder if instead of on your first attempt to engage, them seeing you and being like, oh, you want to say something? If you attempt to say something and then nobody notices, and then nobody notices the second time, then it's like, are you really even going to try a third time to get them to notice you if the first 2 times with strangers they just like don't know
Chat, if you guys have any questions you want to ask it away in the chat here, and I'll ask them for you guys.
You're most
any
likely
questions at all, okay?
going to just back off, right? And not give it another try. So going in and knowing where to stand and knowing about what your position actually is going in, that you are not really a stranger, that you can portray yourself as being part of the in-group to quickly achieve that status. It's something that I've used to help other people as well. I'll give you a great example. A person named Red walked into a room last night that I was in. I was hanging out. I was hanging out with 3 of my friends, my girlfriend, my longest friend I've ever had in here, and then my person who I consider my VR bestie. So like 3 people who know me really well. I gave an introduction when that person walked through the room into the private room that we're in. I could tell that they were nervous and they didn't know like where they stood, if they were to come in and try to join into like the conversation, like would they be allowed. I immediately greeted them and was like, hey Red, what's up, hon? and that's the way I'd like greet somebody who I'm like a close friends with. No, I didn't know them at all, but then what I did was I within like 3 seconds after that, I said that I have to go for just a moment, gotta use the bathroom, took off the headset, and all my friends thinking that oh, this is one of Walter's like close friends, they all went over and were like, hi, I'm Self, I'm Blue, I'm Ninja, like how are you? And then they started talking and having this interaction. And when I came back, they were like talking to each other, because I had even though they weren't even on my friends list yet, they were already on the friends list of my other friends who were there, because they had this 5-minute interaction and added each other. So I wasn't even friends with them. So it's not just about something that you have, but it's also something you can initiate for other people if you decide that you want to engage in social philanthropy. So you can go around and help a lot of people too by tricking your friends into thinking that this person is part of the in-group. Now obviously sometimes that could not pay off, or like a person's a dumb asshole, but I think we can mostly agree that the majority of people aren't dumb assholes. Yeah. What's up, honey?
Huh? What?
Oh, I thought you said, oh, sir. Yes. So, any more questions? Yes.
Anybody?
Me?
Yes, it can be on animal behavior, human psychology, anything like that. What's up, Ash? Yes. Yes.
Oh God. I like that technique, but do you have any more?
Oh, yes. So, things that will help you a ton. This is actually probably, and what I was talking about earlier, this is something you should use when you're learning to get a grasp on initiating with people. So on how do I approach someone? How do I start a topic of conversation? I actually have a lot more advice on this regard, but how do I start topics of conversation? One of the easiest things to do is just spot someone across the room and be like, oh my God, I fucking love your hair. I love the horns. That outfit is fucking sick. And then just run away. Like if they reply and they say something, like sure, say a little bit back and reply. And they'll be like, bye, have fun. Learning how to just spread positivity and just have a quick, really positive interaction that has effectively no chance of having a downside. Like, why are they gonna be like, no, I fucking hate my avatar?
Chase them down.
Like, how many people?
Right,
how
like
many
end the
people are gonna
conversation before it
reply?
gets any further.
Right,
You just-
exactly. You can,
I mean, they
right,
typically
exactly.
do
You
a
can just
compilation,
end conversations, learn these quick skills like that. But
it's a good
other
one.
really important things is that, right, so if you're talking to people, things that are really important to remember. Context of just how memorable an interaction is, okay? So I want you to think about this. You probably can recognize many times in your head that you've been cringe. You know, you had a cringe-worthy moment. You said something cringe. You had a time when you were awkward or when you didn't know what to say. But I want you to think about this. Can you name 5 times that someone else, and I'm not talking about a meme, but like where it was like meme tier, where it became like something mimetic, or it's like a YouTube video or something. I'm talking about an interaction that you've had with a real human being in real life where they did something awkward or cringe or they didn't know what to say, and you still remember, and it was more than a week ago. So something you remember from more than a week back where a person was cringe. Now give me 5 instances of that in your head. Can you remember 5 times that other people other than yourself did these things? Did anyone here remember that?
Right, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so just you basically. But the reference, what this is showing is that none of us actually remember the actions of other people in the degree that we think that we do. We remember certain things, but we don't remember small awkward interactions. Things like when they were cringe and when they felt like they said something cringeworthy and was super awkward, and when they didn't know what to say, and when they were worried about you judging them. You never feel that. You never notice that. But everyone else is experiencing it too. It's important to understand that you don't leave the impact in this negative way that you think that you do on other people. Now, if you go and say cruel shit to them, of course, you're going to leave that impact. But if you just fuck up and do what I've done like 500 times up there, which is scuff my words just slightly, just a little bit of a mess up, place the words in slightly the wrong order, now I could internally start freaking out, be like, oh my God, in front of all these people, like I was super cringe, like I just messed up my speech, and then I just start letting it spiral, right? But again, I remember that people aren't going to remember that in just a couple of seconds. So I should just move past it. Everyone should just move past their own internal judgment. Know that you, and I know this is a cliche, you are your greatest critic, but to such an insane extent that you fucking don't even give a fuck about other people. You have like no critiques of other people. It's not just you're like your greatest critic. It's like you're a guy who only shows up to a restaurant, cooks his own food, and then fucking critiques it every single time at every restaurant you've ever been to your whole life. So it's like, it's the, yeah, you probably get really good, to be fair. You're probably a fucking beast by now, so, yes, yes. Anyone else have any questions? Other questions? Yes, Yeah, let's go.
I was wondering though how long it took you specifically to find an avatar that you felt comfortable being in.
Right. So I'll point out that this was not the first avatar that I felt comfortable in. Her right there. But
you okay?
it took me. Oh my god. Ah!
My french
Okay, hon.
fries.
Ah! It took me.
To clean him off the floor. I don't want to have to
about
call the janitor.
6 months because
I'm sorry.
I came in here and I was depressed and I didn't realize what would be an expression of self. I dressed in very like dark tones and everything was like very dark, but eventually I was given enough opportunities in here to meet a woman named Kokoshin. And this woman, within a 30-minute conversation, though it was more like 3 minutes within that conversation, completely recontextualized my suffering as something that I could utilize to help others rather than something that was merely a burden and was destroying my life. I realized she showed me that through her suffering that she had experienced, she was able to understand everything that I was going through and was able to choose all these right words and create this perfect chain of empathy to pull me out of where I was. And then I started dressing way more rainbow. For those, I'll switch to, I know people on Quest won't be able to see it, so don't worry, I'll switch back in just a moment because I don't engage in indiscriminatory avatar usage. But this avatar,
we're all equal.
Is, yes, queen. This avatar,
equal.
yeah. Her original version of her had no color, effectively. It was just a red scarf, black jumper. This was when I had finally kind of gotten out of my depression, and this was the first avatar that I'd say I felt really comfortable in. Rakoi's Avatar Island is where the original one is from. This is the one I'm currently using.
Oh no.
Yes.
Oh.
That's really cool.
Yes. But avatar expression is actually something that you can see on a neurological level. So the idea that you feel like oh, this is the right avatar for me is actually something that you would see click in like it's a piece to a puzzle in the brain, is that it would register as a specific signal when you have an avatar you feel comfortable in versus when you don't.
Right.
Now it's something that every person should be aiming to try to find the right avatar for themselves. It might take a little while, it might take multiple months. For me it took a long time, and there also might be shifts in it as you gain an awakening of self. For instance, when I was that avatar you saw there, I had never even kissed a person in VR or done anything like that, but I got a crush on someone, and then I got the desire to switch over to an adult avatar. And once I did, I started unlocking more of like my sexuality. Whereas when you're a child avatar, obviously if somebody approaches you like for some sort of romantic advance, you're like, what the fuck? That's gross. And if you approach somebody else, like that's equally as gross. So like you knock yourself out of the romantic scene. But my avatars gained. I mean, they lost clothing over time, and I became like more right. Yes, exactly right. Correct. Yes.
You get a follow.
And so yes. And so the sexual element, two things also became more expressive over time. So I became more of who I am as a person, and as I embraced more and more elements of myself, they became more and more part of the avatar itself. So as you reduce repression, you'll find that your avatar selection also changes. So people grow over time through selection. Yes. And they've actually done studies on the way that males and females associate to an avatar. So males associate to female avatars, and I'll explain what I mean by associate. on an almost equal level. So if a male is in a female avatar, they have about 52% more psychosomatic response than if they're in a male avatar. And what I mean by psychosomatic response is that feeling of touch. What they did is they did touch of men when they were in male avatars versus female avatars, and women when they were in female avatars versus male avatars, and they did intimate touch to see what people would register, and they found that males are actually more responsive in a female avatar on average. Now, that doesn't mean that every person is going to use a female avatar, but it explains things like avatar percentage in preference because it's part of the brain. Now, why that's the case, this is more of an evolutionary psychology question, though I feel like the big cop-out when it comes to these things is to basically just point at male nipples and be like, well, guys are originally female, right? So things like why are there so many people who are male to female trans rather than female to male trans? And I think that percentage comes down to these things like being defaulted as a female rather than being defaulted as a male, because the way being trans works actually is that you physically have the wrong brain for your body. So you have a male brain in a female body, or a female brain in a male body, and you can see this in neurological studies. One of the most interesting and convincing of such studies would be one in which they had people who were straight, bisexual, or gay men. They had them put on an avatar, or not, sorry, I'm speaking slightly distracted me. They tested people who actually had, this is way different from put on an avatar, wait, I'm just gonna, one moment, wait, just a second. Yes, they had people who were men who were straight, gay, bisexual, who had their penis removed from either like cancer or some sort of injury. They had them tested for psychosomatic response to see if they still had phantom sensation in their penis. And what they found is that 70% of men did still have psychosomatic response in their penis, okay? So they still had that sensation. What they found, but here's the really interesting part, what they found with trans people who were in the same position, so women who were male to female trans, right? So trans people were male to female trans who had their penis removed in the exact same set of circumstances, 0% felt any psychosomatics, meaning that it shows up mathematically, not like you test a person, you ask, do you feel anything here? No, like as in they tested it via EEG, because the brain does not include the penis if you're trans. If you are someone who is male to female trans, your brain is actually, the structuring of it is the female structure instead of the male structure. So when you feel like you're in the wrong body, you are actually in the wrong body. So kind of interesting stuff in that regard. Sorry, I tangent a fair bit because I do a 12-hour podcast every day, so. It's kind of just like, go on tangents. Yes, queen.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So I'm really new to VR. This is like my 5th day in it, and I've heard a lot of people mentioning phantom touch. Could you sort of like elaborate on that to me? Like not in a sexual way, but.
Don't worry. No. So I actually talked about this earlier. So this will be a recap for people. But psychosomatic response is what you're referring to, but it's much more than the feeling of touch within VR. It's also a feeling of hot, cold, weight resistance, even scent, taste, and balance can play into as well. In fact, if you stand over here, you might find that you experience the sensation of balance as you like bounce back and forth on this kind of thing. This can be testable in the brain. So if you put someone into an EEG, you'd be able to see the response happening, and it would take place in the cortex, but it also takes place in the limbic system. So it's a limbic and a cortexual response. And what I mean by limbic is that the limbic system deals with emotion, and your cortex deals with sensation. Now, that's not to say that that's all it does, because they both do so much more than that. But if we want to look at it from like how they're interacting with this, there are pathways in the brain that are called allocentric, and those relate to the way you empathize with another person. And then there's egocentric, and that's the way you empathize with yourself. They work in tandem in a way where the closer I feel to a person, the more I'll feel from them in psychosomatic response. So if I'm in love with someone, I'll feel much more than if I have basically never interacted with them at all, and they're just coming up and touching me for the first time. So it's about, it's like how, right, it's like how you'll feel like an example of allocentric somatosensory. So somatosensory is where you look at another person, you feel what you think they are feeling. So like you see a person get hit in the balls, or you see a person like get a paper cut, or like they get like stabbed, and you're like, oh, you feel that?
Like you
that
said
is
earlier, they got hit in the
right.
balls.
Yeah, exactly. That's an allocentric psychosomatic response. So it's allocentric, it relates to someone else. When you touch your own arm in here with something in VRChat, that's egocentric. So it's a real testable phenomenon, and it's something that you can see in many forms of study that have already been conducted. But I would say that the most interesting would probably be the study that I just talked about, which was the one involving touch when a person is in an avatar that does not associate or does associate with their proper gender. So when you have somebody who is in like a female avatar, if they're female, they'll associate toward that to like an 85% likelihood compared to a male avatar, which is a 15%. But a male actually has a 52% chance of feeling more while in a female avatar than in a male avatar, because males slightly associate more with the female body in virtual reality than they do with the male body, and that's what makes that the case is very much up for debate. And the percentage is so slight over what is only a 200 data point study that it can't be said that it's truly a 52% association, though the number is curious that it's so close to the standard deviant of percentage between male and female. It makes it a sort of interesting little tidbit of the study. But I think that you'll find there is something intrinsic within the male brain that draws you to select a female avatar over a male. And this can also be proven mathematically, though I have not personally seen that done yet. Such things can be proven.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Anyone else? Yes. Let's go with Cypress first. Yes.
Okay. For somebody who gets very like overwhelmed in social situations, what kind of advice would you give to them to like calm themselves down and like figure out how to introduce themselves into that situation?
Right. Extremely useful piece of advice, and this is something I would recommend everyone do all the time anyways here in VRChat, like no matter what, is to be playing music. And why that's important, so why music is something that's very useful, is that it will make it so you transfer background sound into a background sound channel within your brain rather than putting it to the forefront where language is being processed. Now, you can't read and write and listen and talk all at the same time. You in fact can only do one of those, because your brain is not something that evolved like, oh yeah, let's evolve learning how to read books at the same time as speaking. It's learned all these skills in tandem to work off just one part of the brain. So when it's using that part, it's like how you might be reading something and you don't hear what somebody said to you. That kind of thing, you know. That's very standard phenomenon. Well, when you are in a large social setting, like you go into a big group, what you want to do is you want to have music on that's channeling the passive like speaking that people are doing into a background filter. So you can have a discussion and you can listen to Ariana Grande at the same time, right? You can have a discussion and have rap going too at the same time or whatever, because your brain is processing one part with the language portion and one part with the creative portion, okay? And what it does is sometimes certain things dip into both, okay? So they dip down into one and then they go back and that kind of thing. So you get like a seesawing effect between certain things. But what you can do is you can take all background information and channel it into that creative portion where it's not interfering with your ability to react to what people are saying. Because there's like 50 people all talking around you. It's going to be really hard to differentiate what's happening. But if you have a bunch of background noise music anyways, your brain is just going to be like, oh, that's another Ariana Grande lyric, that person who just said like that thing right over there. It's actually going to process like that. So it's important to give yourself these tools so you don't feel overwhelmed, so that it shrinks the world for you, because it narrows things down. Because thankfully, when you're in the headset, your peripheral vision is already pretty small, so the world's already relatively narrow and focused. But this creates a much more narrow focus. So I'd recommend that, but I would also recommend if you feel overwhelmed, just take off the headset, process it, try it again, and continuously do that until eventually you're able to kind of get a breakthrough. Because this allows you to utilize exposure therapy like nothing else can. In fact, VR's primary benefit is within exposure therapy. And when I say exposure therapy, I mean that's when you go in, you experience something, and then the next time it's not as scary anymore. So you go in, you're like, let's say you're afraid of heights, but then you like work around heights so much it stops being scary. Or like you're initially afraid of this thing, but then it goes away over time. Exposure therapy helps you in every possible way. VR is incredible for that. If you feel, something that I would strongly recommend to all people is that if you feel awkward going into a situation, you should tell yourself, and I should push forward, and you should just force yourself to do it, because conveniently you don't have to go and like VR is not like something where you have to walk around, right? The whole place. You don't have to walk up to a person, right? I can press my joystick and just move up to them. So it's just my thumb having to engage in an action to get me to a location. It's much less pressure, and there's much less like forethought required. If you feel like, I feel anxious about this, just push yourself up into it. And know that after doing that a few times, you'll actually start feeling way less. It's important to know that the first step is always the most difficult, but the most important step is always the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, right? So it gets easier and easier as you go, but those first like 10 steps are going to be by far the hardest, and then it gets simpler and simpler. It's about pushing yourself and about continuously trying, because right now you're a new user, but I can guarantee you that when you're a trusted user, you will have such a different experience of how this has all been, and you'll have so much more under your belt when it comes to social interactions, so many friends that you made, and so many times you've gone to public and been able to just like handle yourself. And I want to put it this way. I've interacted with people face to face for perhaps 8,000 hours total of my time in here. Now, how much time would it take for me to get 8,000 hours of face-to-face interaction in real fucking life?
Right.
Like an unlimited volume of, it would take like 10 years or something like that, right? Like it's gonna take me. Because what you've got to remember is that I'm not in school anymore, so I can't rely on every day going to school, right? Or I get those numbers just grinded up easy. If I was in school, I do the mathematics of this is how much I'm in school based on this is how often I'm talking to people, and it would get me that number in like maybe like 6 years, something like that. But in here, I was able to get that in a fraction of the time, and it allows you to grind social interaction 24/7 all the time, and lets you get really good on-the-spot analytics at a low cost. What I mean analytics at a low cost is that you can judge how uncomfortable do I feel in this social situation, how am I doing right here, what are my anxieties, and then quickly go and address that. You can get a quick judge on yourself. How do I feel entering this great pub where there's like 20 people around? Oh, I feel really good. I want to go in. Awesome. That's how I want to feel. So I encourage it. I go and bring myself forward. Oh, I feel anxiety. I don't necessarily want to go in. I'll push myself forward. Yes.
All right, we time for one more quick question. One more quick question, and then we'll get wrapped up here and get going.
If someone
Anyone
has a
else?
more important question, I'll just let them go, because mine's directed at you.
Okay. Yeah. What's up, Ash?
Wait, what?
Oh,
You're just doing that thing again.
Sorry.
You actually off.
You're just doing the thing. Don't worry, honey.
Yeah,
It's
that's
okay.
good.
It's okay. Eventually, I would get used to it. Yes. So now you may go.
All right.
Hands
Go ahead,
right
Vision.
now, so I was indicating that I was stretching.
It's okay.
I was gonna say, you really like, you're an early adapter of VR, you like VRChat a lot. I was gonna
Yes.
say, have you looked into Chill Out VR? Because with all the crazy stuff that you can do in that compared to this.
Don't talk about it.
They don't like it.
Talk about it. Right.
Ah.
Here's something. This is the big risk of Chill Out VR. So I'll talk about this first and foremost. So I right now have been given by the CEO, the community CEO, Ron, for VRChat. I've been given a mode called privacy mode. Now I can click this under comfort and safety and it'll automatically deny friend requests. And that's because people from gangs have been brigading people like me who are like first person perspective streamers, because I stream out of my own eyes. They brigade me with mass volumes of friend requests that were racial slurs and had pornography on them. So there are gangs in here that actively target people who are streamers, who are just normal members of the community. And I will tell you that a year back, this game had security holes, and security holes are a big fucking deal. I got DDoS for an entire week. I was denied my internet for a full week, completely denied it. But it's not cool. But if it was for 10 total days, and if this had happened during the pandemic, and I was with my family, then people could have lost their jobs and all kinds of things, and certainly my family would have had a discussion with me, if I lived with them when this was happening, that you can't use this anymore, this is too risky, that kind of thing. They would have been making a pretty good point. Now, Chill Out VR might still have those loopholes, and I want to tell you that I am in the Discord of many of these gangs because there's been infiltration efforts by streamer communities for a long time that have been successful in getting Discord accounts into these gangs that are community accessible between certain people. I have seen that they use Chill Out VR, and I've personally had friends go into a server and see the most dangerous people from gangs who they actively try to dox people and destroy their lives and will DDoS you, are currently operating within those communities. Now it's possible that it's completely safe, but I know for a fact they can't get your IP here or on Discord or through Steam. I don't know the case through Chill Out VR though. So
yeah, boo.
there is a risk associated. But I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But these are some downsides that you would have to going over to Chill Out VR from going over here. Is that there are incredibly well established communities. There's nothing like this happening in Chill Out VR.
Yeah, it's
right now.
early VRChat days.
Right, it's very early VRChat days, correct. And so there's still a lot to grow, and there's a lot to, if you were to, it's like investing into a new stock or whatever. It could grow, but also it could just taper off and not really end up being anything. This has already shown that it has this explosive growth. It has these opportunities, but it has a very evolved set of things that it offers for adults. It offers an incredibly complex and integrated dating scene. It offers many groups that are dedicated to 18 plus activities and properly card people. That's a really important thing, is that there are communities in here. What I mean is that they force you to go on webcam and show your ID at the same time. Meaning that they force you to, now you can cover up your name and stuff, but you have to show your ID and your face to join certain communities in here. There are communities that are very serious, and the level of complexity to VRChat is something that will take a long time for other places to catch up to on a social level. Because a big advantage that VRChat has is that about 40% of the population is female, and that is a huge draw and also a huge equalizer and a balancing force to make the culture way less toxic. Because, like, no offense to us guys, but like,
Men suck.
I mean, the number of guys who are just hilarious assholes is it's so much more. It's so much more, and like so many guys are just willing to engage in like hilariously casual cruelty, and that doesn't mean that women aren't willing to engage in these things as well. Obviously, there's equal opportunity for cruelty. It's just that on the internet, generally, that's not what you see. So this provides a more like stable environment too, because women equal stability within a social environment. Too many men makes the social environment eventually implode and become like hateful and kind of like more and more like toxic of an environment. But something that's more equalized makes it way more positive, and it's a huge draw too that this platform is so heavily female oriented that it's like the idea of like ladies' night. It's sort of set up already to draw in more people and to continue to draw in people and continue to keep people coming back, because it's an environment that because there's so many women, the men here are very accepting of women, whereas like you get a hilarious amount of toxicity in any other sort of platform. Right. I actually talk about topics of sexism quite a bit. The fun thing about ethology, which is the study of evolutionary psychology, sexual psychology, and developmental psychology, is that you can actually use it as a framework to understand almost any behavior on a level that most people haven't studied it. So most people are not ethologists. In fact, most people never heard of an ethologist before and have no idea what the fuck that is. Right, exactly. We're the people who fill out Wikipedia pages on like elephants and shit. That would be that's basically like that's what an ethologist does, but on a more complicated level. So I can come in here and I can look at things like when men will come up to you and tell you to as a woman to shut the fuck up and stop talking. What that actually is that there is a set of developmental and sexual psychology aspects and evolutionary psychology aspects in play to enact that situation. That what you're seeing is actually like an ancient piece of behavior playing out. You see it start with that behavior kind of starts back when you're very young, and it's like totally the truth too, is that like boys rule, because like all that matters is physical activity when you're a child, and you absolutely just shit on all the girls starting at such a young age. It's super obvious, right? Like you just absolutely obliterate them, right? So you got the idea that boys rule, and you kind of get this idea of this is the way the hierarchy works. But when you hit puberty, suddenly you have a 2.5 times higher sex drive than the women do, and the power dynamic completely shifts the other way, and it never shifts back either. And so there's like an ever increasingly, because men will like, it's why you hear about like 70-year-old men getting busted with porn stars. It's because a 7-year-old guy is still yes, it's because a 7-year-old guy is still like can be reproductively active. An 80-year-old guy could still reproduce, but like a 50-year-old woman does not still reproduce. So the power that women have over you never goes down effectively. Like it goes down slowly over time, but this results in a lot of sort of untapped frustrations that end up happening. So over time, when you have this super active sex drive and it's not getting fulfilled, and then you find yourself down like this YouTube rabbit hole, and you're kind of like start othering women, that's what ends up happening a lot is people in the modern era end up down a YouTube rabbit hole. But what you see is a person will start othering women, and when they hear you speak, they have all this like background of like oh, women have rejected me this time and this time and this, and I have all these feelings that are negative towards women. When they hear you speak, they're instantly interested in you. But if you were to look at their brain, it would instantly, like, if you're a guy, you know how this works. If you're in a room with 50 other guys and there's one woman, you can hear that woman's voice clearly over all the other voices. It triggers. Right, exactly. It triggers something within your head. You have a response. Now, a lot of guys, the response might be to go over and start being flirty. The response might be to do nothing. But for some guys, the response is, oh, I'm interested in them. But they'll never be interested in me, just like everyone else. I fucking hate how women are. I wish there were no women around this environment so it could go back to me not having to think about women. And they come over, and the reason why the first thing they tell you is to shut the fuck up is because your voice alone is enough to initiate this whole thing within them. They actually feel like you are attacking them. These people who are coming up to be an asshole to you, they are being an asshole, but in their brain, they're actually on the defensive, and you're the aggressor. So they feel fully justified in coming up and doing this, which is why when you respond to them, they'll still treat you like you're a piece of shit. Like they're like, no, I was totally chill with doing that. That was completely fine. So you see ethology as being a fun framework to understand basically like any sort of behavior, even like weird ones. That's like, why are people coming up to people and telling them to shut the fuck up in the middle of the Void Club? It's like, well, ethology has the answer to that. So, it's a very fun science. Yeah, it's great.
Full-page essay about elephants is fun.
I will tell you, it's not even like a full page or a 4-page essay or anything like that when it comes to studying animals. It's like a thing where you dedicate 5 years to studying an animal or more. So, and when I say studying an animal, I mean like, like, when I say studying,
hits again.
Oh my god, yeah, holy shit, VRChat, please. When I say like studying an animal, I mean like studying a fucking beetle will take you 5 years. Studying an elephant, honey.
Right.
Like elephants, there are going to be neuroethologists and cognitive ethologists studying them. Those are people who study like the brain structure and the way it works for decades, for 100 years. You'll study a beetle for like 10 years, and still another scientist might come in and blow everything you've done out of the water because they have new research techniques, and it's just like, fuck, there was all my work. So it's very cutting edge, very fun. You're always on like the spear point of whatever you're working on too. Like you better believe that if I worked on some fucking beetle in the Amazon for 5 years, that I am the #1 expert in the world on that beetle. I am the #1. It's super easy as an ethologist to be like, yeah, I'm the #1 in this. I am technically the #1 researcher in social VR. So as an ethologist, it's very easy to be like, oh, look how cool and elite I am. So it's a very fun sort of science to engage in. Yes, queen.
All right.
Okay, now we'll get it back to you.
So, everyone, please give a round of applause to Walter for that awesome examples and question answering. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You can all follow Walter on twitch.tv/WalterHugs. Kelsey, go ahead.
Yes, I answer any questions and anything like that all day. Thank you, honey.
Can we get a picture with you after for our classroom?
Yeah, I was about to do that, actually. That's what I was doing. That's what I was going to do. So,
I'll switch to my proper avatar for it.
Yeah, you can actually do it right now.
Okay.
So, everybody, we are not going to have homework this week. Next week is the prom. We have prom next week, so everybody should be ready for that. Make sure you invite everybody that you want to invite. And again, it's going to be hosted by us. So don't forget, it's being hosted by the No Friends Friends Club. So come and be prepared to spread the word. So that's coming up the week after. And then after that week, class will resume regularly at 9:30. So 9:30 is our new permanent time. Today was an exception because we have Battle Disc tournament later on. I didn't want to run over Walter's time here, so we are going to have meetings going to be starting at 9:30 the week after prom. So that'll be the week of the was it the 5th or something like that? I think it's the week of the 5th.
That's what I got wrong.
So and then you can expect homework on that, and we'll go back to regular class routine where we have exercise and everything. So again, everyone, another round of applause for Walter. Thank you again so much for coming out and talking. That was really, really helpful.
Thank you,
and
honeys.
much more than we
Yes,
could have
it was
ever
really
asked for.
Yes,
Can everybody
I love
here?
this kind of thing so much.
Can you guys move this way to the left here? Can you guys all group right here? And Walter, you can
Get
stand
over here.
anywhere on this, and I'll take a picture of everybody.
Okay.
And then we'll get on out of here and head
Yes,
over
wait,
to the
wait, wait.
Battle Disc tournament.
Let's stand between Kelsey and Rebu. Yeah,
Get a nice picture here. If you guys are blocked by the wings, just move over to the side so you can all
Is
get
this like
in.
a real class thing?
My bad.
No, you're good. You're good. No, you're good. Now we know.
Okay, I feel bad now because I.
All right.
Fine, I guess you
Wait,
are my
I'll
little
duck
pod
down here.
champ.
Charles, thank you so
and
much
I
for following.
can
I appreciate it.
Sit and play.
All right, guys, are we ready for a
Mhm.
picture? All right, ready? I'm gonna do a countdown in 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, I'm so freaking stupid. Hold on, sorry. I can't. All right,
Don't
all right.
worry.
Okay, I was on stream camera.
You did the 5-second thing.
Yeah, no, I was on stream camera.
I
camera. Okay, 5-second countdown. 3, 2, 1.
Please.
Take a couple more.
I blink.
So,
I blink.
so what I missed?
The whole thing.
Missed the whole meeting. dude.
Antron, can you step over here or back to the side? Just back to the room or somewhere? Okay, thanks. I'm just trying to get as many as I can.
I'm about to fall.
We're gonna vote.
Keep posing, keep posing. It's just gonna be whatever.
Gotta grab them all.
Alright, got him, we're good, we're good. Alright, awesome, thanks guys.
Okay.
Remember guys, Walter
There we
Hugs on
go.
twitch.tv.
And we look
Check the
terrible
Golden
in
Gator if you want to
everyone.
find his
Yes, it was
listing there
extremely
too.
fun.
So, thanks everybody for coming out.
Yes, Queen. Yep.
Thanks,
Guys,
Walter. Thank you so much for coming out.
everyone. That was extremely fun. No, that was extremely fun. I love it. Yes, this is the kind of thing I do all day. So.